In Dragon Ball Z, audiences were introduced to Dr. Gero, a mastermind of the Red Ribbon Army who created their powerful line of androids. His goal was world domination, however it was foiled by Goku. After the Red Ribbon Army's defeat, Gero spied on Goku and his friends in order to ascertain their strengths and weaknesses. This went on for many years, however he stopped before they left for Namek. This proved to be a costly error, as Goku had significant development on Namek, becoming far stronger and even unlocking the legendary form of Super Saiyan. This mistake in large part led to Gero's defeat and gave the Earthlings a chance against his androids. But what if Gero actually did follow Goku to Namek and learned about Super Saiyan much sooner? How would this change the story, and would it lead his androids to total victory? Well, in this video, we're going to discuss that. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and enable notifications so you can see all of my content right away when it comes out. Okay guys, so joining me in this video is someone you've seen on my channel in the past, and his name is...
Hey guys, it's Josh from Dragon Ball Nation here.
Okay Josh, so this is something that a lot of fans have talked about over the years and have very often asked me this question. What if Dr. Gero knew about Namek as well as Super Saiyan and perhaps sent along one of his spies to follow Goku and friends when they were on the planet? So, you know, obviously, as we know in the Dragon Ball Z story, when they first meet with androids 19 and 20, Goku asks them if they had followed Goku and everyone's progress in space. And what Dr. Gero, android 20, tells him is that they didn't think that it was necessary for them to actually follow their progress because at that point they believed that they had extrapolated enough evidence to tell them even the most ridiculous level of growth that Goku and his friends would be able to reach. So, of course, as we saw in the main story, when Goku transformed into a Super Saiyan in front of Dr. Gero, he and Android 19 were pretty shocked because Goku's level of power far exceeded what they had believed. So, what if in this example, instead of Dr. Gero being ignorant, which is one of the main reasons for his downfall, he actually did follow through and was extremely thorough about this and did follow their progress on Namek? What do you think the ramifications for this would have to be? Let's first start off with Dr. Gero and Android 19 themselves, because if they knew just how powerful Goku had become on Namek, and then they had projected his own training and what levels of power he would be able to reach, how strong do you think that they'd be able to make themselves? And do you think that Gero would actually be able to make himself and 19 capable of taking on the even more powerful Goku and possibly Vegeta than he had expected?
That's actually a really good point, because I was only thinking of Android 17 18 for this video. Now, if you're talking about how strong Gero and 19 could have became, I'm not really sure what was the whole point of making 17 and 18 if Gero and 19 could have gotten so much stronger themselves, right? Maybe that's a plot hole, I guess.
Well, there's a lot of those in the Cell Saga.
Like, what was the purpose of 17, 18? Were they just so special? I guess since Gero and 19 are so artificial, maybe they can't get as strong. But then look at 16. You know, he's completely artificial, and he's, you know, powerful than both 17 and 18. I don't think Gero knew what he was doing until he made 21, but if he could have made him and 19 a lot stronger, then yeah, I guess the Z Fighters would have been messed up, but I feel like there must have been a limit on how strong he could have made himself and 19. I mean, if 17, 18, and 16 and Cell even were all necessary. Of course, I suppose some of that is, yes, part to where he wants to kill Goku. He wants there to be someone to kill Goku. But also, I mean, creating a perfect organism like Cell, there's obviously some scientific goal there, right? He's trying to reach a goal with making such a creature. But yeah, I mean, I'm not so sure he could have made him and 19 stronger, but who knows?
Yeah, that's a good point. And, you know, I think when it came to 17, 18, he wanted to take on more of the Dr. Frankenstein kind of role that we saw with somebody like Babidi, where he was this character who wasn't really powerful on his own, but he had these super powerful monsters of sorts that he could control and he could tell them to do whatever he wanted. But as we saw in the manga, through the Android ABCs, where it explained that Android 17 and 18 were quote-unquote failures because they didn't listen to him, ultimately, obviously, that plan didn't work out. And when it comes to Android 19 and 20 specifically, I feel like possibly because of the nature of what Android android they were, they wouldn't necessarily be able to have a base power that's like at the level of like Super Saiyan Goku or Vegeta. And the reason I say that also ties into another video I did where I discussed how powerful 19 and 20 were, which you could check out on my channel, in which I discussed how the reason why Gero likely made himself an energy absorption model is because his body was old and he probably wouldn't have been able to go through the same procedures that he had put 17 and 18 through. So I feel like that maybe his goal was that through absorbing energy, he'd be able to make himself far more powerful. So it's possible that even though the new Super Saiyans would be stronger than him, he still would be arrogant enough to believe that he and 19 would be able to absorb their power and make that power difference moot. So in that case, I could see pretty much the same situation playing out where Goku and Vegeta still are able to defeat them. And like Piccolo even said, which is something interesting when he was fighting Dr. Gero, was that even if you absorb our energy, it doesn't really mean that you know how to use it as well as we can, because by that point in time, Piccolo, Goku, and some of the other fighters had been able to figure out that they could use their energy in even higher, more exponential amounts through short bursts, which means that even though Gero might be able to have a stronger base level than, you know, a certain character, for example, he might not be able to beat them because he simply can't amplify his power the same way and use it with anywhere near as much assurance as they can. So this leads us into talking about another pair of androids, and those are 17 and 18, which in this case, Josh, I almost feel like would be the much bigger deal, because even though we don't know when Dr. Gero really started to work on 17 and 18, you know, when he started to give them their enhancements and started to change them at the molecular level, the question becomes, if he were influenced by the power of what he saw in Namek, would he not possibly try and make them even stronger first, just in case Goku and friends were to be able to rival their level of power after their own training before they were to, say, encounter them? And if so, do you think that there's any real way that they'd be able to win? Or I guess if we look at the original timeline, do you think that there's a way that Gohan or Trunks would be able to even survive long enough to go back in time and save the world, basically, from their own incursion?
That's a good point. If we're going on the notion that they would get stronger, knowing the data from the Super Saiyan form and knowing to, you know, obviously calculate for that, I don't see any situation where in either timeline that the Z Fighters could have survived, really. Like, there's no situation where future Gohan would have been able to hold his own in some capacity, I guess, even though, especially in the manga, I mean, 17 was like way outclassing future Gohan and Trunks. I mean, that would be a joke, really, to even try to compete with them. So it really would just be nothing but running away, unless we were to say that maybe 17, 18 were holding back so that Gohan would perform exactly the same. You know, they would be having fun with the Gohan, basically, again. It would just be that they'd be holding back more power in the future. If that were the case, and that, you know, all the events occurred and Trunks still comes to the past and we get to the situation where they meet Gero and they know about the lab and all that stuff, the only real way I can see them kind of winning here is if, for whatever reasons, the androids are in their chambers a little longer and they can get in there and destroy everything before they wake up and whatnot. But I mean, the amount of power those androids theoretically would have, it's a joke. It really is. I can't think of a character that would rival their power. Not necessarily that there'd be no one stronger, but I can't think of who I would compare the androids to.
Well, I feel like in this scenario, even Piccolo, like after he absorbed Kami, like he was a little stronger than Android 17.
Right, 17 had the stamina advantage because he doesn't run out of energy.
Yeah, so I'm sure that if they were to have been made even more powerful, that I feel like Piccolo wouldn't have been able to stand a chance even against Android 18 in that example.
Absolutely not. Even if they got 25% stronger, that really would have been enough, in all honesty.
Yeah, and as we've talked about in previous videos, which you could also check out on my channel, we've discussed that even a 20% difference is enough to overpower your opponent and kind of have them beat in Dragon Ball. But I do think that there is a possible way that they could win, which would be using the hyperbolic time chamber, because as we saw in the Cell Saga, you know, in the actual main timeline, even when the Z Fighters trained, they were defeated by Android 17 and 18. So if everything were to play out similarly, where Trunks was able to go back in time and he was able to warn the Z Fighters and they trained and everything like that, maybe 17 and 18 spared them just like they did in their main timeline.
I think that's plausible too, because I mean, they were already trying to play with them.
Yeah, exactly. So if they were to go in the time chamber, I think that even though they would be made stronger, I think that Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, and Trunks would still be able to beat 17, 18, and 16 at that that point, even though 16 could still blow himself up.
I agree, but what if the same thing played out and the story was essentially the same, where maybe Vegeta's holding off 17 this time, right? And they're kind of equal, like it's a Piccolo and 17 situation again, but Cell absorbs 17. Is Cell gonna be stronger with these new calculations in place? And if Cell reaches perfect form, I mean, is there really a chance then? Probably not.
That's a really good point, and it's very possible because Cell, through Dr. Gero's computer, only really learned about the power of the Super Saiyan after they were on Earth, essentially. So basically, you know, in the main timeline, the main Cell would have learned about it by Trunks killing Frieza and King Cold, whereas in the original timeline, he would have learned about it by Goku killing Frieza and King Cold as a Super Saiyan.
Right.
So if Dr. Gero had learned about the Super Saiyan over a year before that happened, then it's possible that Cell's development would have been fundamentally changed, which means that he could have been even more powerful during his initial imperfect form when he first comes out of the tank.
And not only that, maybe the fact that 17, 18 would be stronger would automatically make his power more, but we're still not even 100% sure on how Cell's metamorphosis kind of increases his power. Is it, you know, a set level? Does it matter how strong 17 is or not, right? Like, if he absorbs 17 from Super, would he get way stronger than he was in the Cell Saga? Who knows? Probably.
I would definitely think so, considering that freaking 17 from Super is Super Saiyan Blue level, which is insane, but, you know, that's a whole other different story. So I think that if Cell is even more powerful than before, and he could still attain his perfect form with even stronger androids, then I don't even know if Super Saiyan 2 Gohan from the Cell games would have been able to stop him, so...
I don't even think it's a chance, especially if he does come back as Super Perfect Cell, you know, with a self-destruct. I mean, because, you know, you can make arguments to who was even stronger in the original fight, but even if they're around equal, this stronger Cell, I mean, there would just be too much. It's too much stuff, yeah.
It would be pretty crazy. So I think that this would result in a negative outcome for everyone if Dr. Gero were to learn about Super Saiyan even earlier. Whether it's him and 19 who defeat everyone, 17 and 18, or perhaps Cell, I'm not too sure that they'd actually be able to make it past the Cell games, and I'm not even sure if they'd be able to make it past the original timeline because they might just wipe out Gohan and Trunks right then and there.
I mean, maybe a Spirit Bomb will work. The thing that we have to remember, Mike, is that if this timeline is going down differently, if these characters are a lot stronger than they should have been, if Cell turns into a bigger threat, then their approach to how they fight him is going to be different. So maybe there is a thing where all the Z fighters are working together, hold down Cell, and they do a Spirit Bomb and that kills him. It's possible, but if the timeline plays out the same or similar, then everyone's screwed.
Yeah, so let us know your own thoughts down below in the comments. What do you think would happen if Dr. Gero knew about Namek and Super Saiyan before he actually did in the main story? Also, make sure to check out Dragon Ball Nation in the end screen description. I'm sure he'll upload eventually. I mean, even Super Jane came back, so there's hope for Dragon Ball Nation yet. And if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe and to enable notifications so that you can see all of my videos right away when they come out. And if you like this video, then make sure to stick around because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, even if the Dr. Gero knew about the super gainer gene on the natty Namek, he would never stand a chance at absorbing my gains. Splow!